Hello my friends and welcome back to JavaScript with Jaxicab. Last time we touched on some of the more basic things such as setting up your Cloud9 workspace, some declaring basic variables, basic mathematical operations, and I think at the very end we touched on functions. So if you want to, you can go back, click the link in the description to go back to that first video, get yourself started, and then come back to this video when you're ready. In this video, we're going to hit more on functions as well as we're going to start looking at objects, which is sort of where JavaScript, really has its strength. Well, really any sort of object-oriented programming language has its strength. So the first thing we're going to do is we're going to take a look back at our HTML. So we've got our tags and we put our JavaScript in our script tag, correct? Correct, right? So we are going to first look at objects, right? So you declare an object like you declare everything else in JavaScript. So we're going to make an object called car. And this particular car is going to be a fiat, right? So all we did here is we said, here's a thing. Here's a car, basically. Here's an object car, and this particular object car is a fiat, right? Now this can get a little bit more complicated, which often it will if you are sort of doing objects, right? So here is a car, and let's say we want to get a little bit more particular with the car, right? So let's say that this type of car is a fiat, right? Okay, sure. Let's say that this particular model is, I don't know, what's a fiat? 500? 500, okay. And what else could we say about a car? We could say color, right? And these can be any sort of attributes that you really want to do, right? So we'll say blue, right? Sounds good. So this is basically saying that we have a variable car, well, not a variable, sorry, an object, a thing, basically. You need to think of these things as just common nouns. So we have a car. It is of the top type fiat, of the model 500, and of the color blue. Right? We can also write functions inside of objects, right? So that as you sort of get more complicated into this, you can have different things. And the sort of idea behind making an object car is that if we decided we wanted another car and we wanted like a I don't know, a Ford Focus, we could just declare car and it would know that it needed a type, model, and color, or whatever functions we defined, right? So let's go ahead and let's make another object, right? And let's call this person, right? So we're gonna call this person, and we're gonna put some junk in here, right? So we're gonna do like a first name John, and remember we separate all these sort of, you always separate attributes with commas. And we're gonna make last name Smith, right? Looks good. And you see I'm doing some kind of weird spaces because my thumbs are retarded, but spaces do not matter in JavaScript, unlike other languages. We could do age, I guess. And since age is an integer, we don't have to do quotation marks. Okay, so next thing we are going to address is how you want to access these properties in objects, right? So we're going to go over two examples with this person John. So we're going to say person dot first name is person dot age years old, right? I'll throw in some spaces in there for continuity. And what this will do is this will say, okay, person dot first name John is person dot age 50 years old. So John is 50 years old. Second way you can do this, this is how I always do it, is the sort of dot method, we'll call it. But you can also use brackets, right? So person, square brackets, string, first name, not first name. Yep. See, if it auto completes for you, so you kind of know you're on the right track, and then you sort of do the same thing, right? Is person brackets age years old. So these two statements are equivalent to each other. It's sort of okay. So this is just pissed because we used this twice. Yeah, don't worry about that. So these are equivalent. The only difference is preference. I prefer this method up here, the top method. Alright, so next we're going to talk about adding and deleting attributes for an object. So we got our good old person John over here, right? So if we want to add like a nationality or something, or whatever you want, all you got to do is define it like you would in a statement. So person dot, how do you spell nationality? Like this. And obviously it's undefined right now. So we could do English, right? That's a nationality. So now it says, okay, person now has the attribute nationality, which is equal to English. Let's say we wanted to get rid of it. All you got to do is delete. Notice it turned purple. Person dot nationality, and then semicolon, because that is a statement. And that's all you got to do to add or delete attributes in an object. All right, another thing I want to hit on is the fact that objects in JavaScript are mutable, and that means that they are addressed by the reference and not by the value. So stuff you put in here, you can mess up depending on how you write your code, right? So as you can see, we've got the person that we made a little while ago, and it's got the attributes first name, last name, age, and color. And specifically, this person's name is John Smith, age 50, eye color blue, right? So let's say that we make a variable x, right? And we're going to set x equal to the object person. Kind of a shitty thing to do, because, and this goes with this like mutability thing, you can then do x dot age, I don't know, equals 10. And that therein lies the danger. This 50 is now 10. Person John, well, just person in general, their age is now 10. You just rewrote whatever you took the effort to write up here. That's sort of going against the sort of organizational power of object-oriented programming. You want to sort of plan this out with the objects so that way you don't have to sort of declare age again. You can say, okay, well, age is 50, but now you're saying it's 10, so it kind of fucks it up, right? So this changes both, just to sum up, this changes both x.age to 10, and since x is equal to person, it changes person.age to 10. Alright, so let's do a sort of more complicated example of a function, and this is actually going to be what's called a function constructor. And this is more often the way, object constructor, and this is more often the way you're going to define objects, because it allows you to do what I was saying earlier, where like maybe you want a Fiat 500 or maybe you want a Ford Focus. This allows you to make like different objects, different new objects of the same type, basically. So we're going to stick with our function. Jeez. We're going to start with our sort of person example, right? So this is going to be a little bit complicated at first, but bear with me. So we're going to make a function, right? And we're going to call this function person, and that was our object last time, and it's still going to be our object, but this is what constructs. This is the way to think of it. The function constructs the object person. So like the function of person constructs people. So what do we want persons to have? We want a first name, which we'll call first, last name, which we'll call last, and age, which we'll call age, and an eye color, sure. Alright, and we do the curly braces for functions. And if you can remember from when we talked about functions, these are the attributes of the function. So when you call the function person, it's going to look for a first, a last, an age, and an eye. So we're going to do this dot first name equals first. And what this is doing is this is assigning attributes, assigning sort of things to those attributes. So that way when we construct it, it can say, hey, whatever person you're making, their first name is the first attribute is equal to this right here, right? So let's go ahead and let's do this for each of the other three things, right? So this would be last, this would be age, and this would be, I call it eye color, right? These are the same as your attributes that you defined beforehand. Sorry, age. And this is I, right? So this is our constructor done, right? This is a function that creates people. People are persons, right? The object persons. And it's going to create people with a first, a last, an age, and an I. So how it knows what these things are is it goes inside the function and it says, okay, look at what we're making here. So this dot first name is first, last name is last, age is age, and eye color is eye, right? So let's make one of these guys, right? So let's do variable, I don't know, my dad equals new, because we're creating a new person, right? Well, look, I tried to autocomplete for us, right? Person, and then inside parentheses, it's going to look for these attributes. So we don't copy and paste this. We actually put what we want to be the first, the last, the age, and the eye, or the first name, last name, age, and eye color. So my dad, let's do John. Sorry, it's a string, so it needs to be in quotations, right? John. I don't know. Dr. Pepper. We'll just do Pepper. John Pepper. What's a good dad age? 50. And eye color, we'll do blue to match his fiat, right? And you always end with a semicolon. All right, so that makes a person called my dad with first name John, last name Pepper, age 50, eye color blue, right? So we can do this as many times as we want with as many people as we want, right? So we could do my mom, we could call her Sally Pepper, or maybe they're divorced and she's Sally Pepsi. And she'll be 45 and her eye color will be green, right? And like I said, like you can do this sort of as many times as you want, and that's the strength of objects and object-oriented programming, and specifically JavaScript, is you can have something like this sort of constructor, and you can go on, since you've defined this, all you got to do to make a new person is just say, hey, this is my person, this is what it's called, and this is what I want to declare for those attributes we previously declared. So as you can imagine, this is powerful with stuff like it's really more organizational. So like in this instance, we knew we wanted people, and we knew basic attributes for people. And with the fiat, we knew basic attributes for our cars, right? All right, and let's look a little bit closely on this. And I know I sort of touched on it, saying like obvious, it could be almost intuitive that this would refer to this person. But in JavaScript and in many other languages, the thing called this is the object person that owns this code, right? This belongs to this guy right here, this person, or more specifically when we call it, it belongs to my dad or my mom or whatever. So the value of this when used in an object like my mom or my dad is the object that owns this function, right? So to clear it up a little bit, the keyword this doesn't have a value. It's not on its own anything. It's a placeholder, right? It's only a substitute for this because that we want this to be applicable to any object we create. So we don't necessarily know what the object is going to be called, so we just say this, and then the keyword this refers to with the object name, and that's sort of the that lends itself to the flexibility of objects in JavaScript. And the value of this will become, this object name. You cannot change the value of this, right? This is always going to be this. All right, so next we're going to touch on methods, specifically in objects. There are some built-in methods such as uppercase. So let's do a little thing here. So let's make a message, var message equals equals, I'm having to look past my microphone here. I don't know what is up. It's a pretty good message, right? That's something you'd say to people. So let's go ahead and do window.alert message. Right. So now that'll do what is up, right? Pretty cool. But we already knew how to do that, right? What we didn't know how to do is we can do var x, right? And let's make this equal to message, and then here's the built-in function to, look, it already has it over there. Would you look at that? To uppercase. And we're going to change this right here to x because we wanted to alert this variable, not this one. So let's see what it does now. What is up? Yeah, that's right. So that's sort of the strength of functions, is once we have them declared, which this is a built-in one, so it's already declared, we can do pretty powerful things, much more powerful than making something uppercase, definitely. Alright, so let's take what I just showed you, and let's, instead of using a built-in method, let's actually create our own method. So as you can see, we have the object constructor person, which we made before, and we're declaring an object of the type person to be my dad, and obviously it has the first name John, last name Pepper, age 50, eye color blue, right? No big deal. This is simple stuff. We know how to do this, right? And as you can see, I have a window dot, this should be my dad, not person. We're going to alert the last name, so that way we can test a little bit, right? So we can do my dad dot last name, right? And we'll test this, right? We'll make sure it works. It's Pepper. Yep. Almost says Smith. Pepper. So it throws out Pepper. Let's say, for the sake of just sort of throwing it out there, that we wanted to be able to change the last name of whatever person we make, sort of on the fly, right? As a function, or a method rather. So we're going to call it this. We always start off with this because that's an attribute sort of thing. We want it to be able to apply to every object we make, and we're going to call this change name. And this is going to be a function which is expecting an attribute name, which we're going to define inside the function as per usual. And let's go ahead and tab this over. So this dot last name, because that's what we want to change, is equal to name, right? So what we did is we made a method called change name that applies to this person, or more specifically this person when we use it. And this method uses this function. Method calls this function. This function expects a name, so when we use it, we're gonna have to throw in a name, and it's gonna take that name, and it's gonna make that name, whatever, it's going to change whatever that person's last name is to that name, right? So let's go ahead and use it down here, right? So we got our dad, my dad, and their last name is Pepper. What if we wanted it, what if he, I don't know, a better example would have been the wife, but what if he wanted to change his last name after he got divorced or something, right? So my dad dot change name. Look, it already has it over here. How convenient. We want to put the what it expects, right? So the attribute would be the name. So let's change it to I don't know, chapstick. Right? And let's see what this this alert does for us now. Chapstick. Would you look at that? Pretty cool, huh? So as you can imagine, this is once again, I've said it a million times, but the power and the flexibility of object-oriented programming is the fact that you can put functions and methods inside of objects like this, so that way in the future you don't have to like worry about all this crap. You can just say, okay, I want an object my dad, I want it to have this crap, and if I want to change the name, I'll just make a function and then I can just change the name. Alright guys, that about wraps it up for objects in JavaScript. So let's do a short little recap. So we learned how to make a constructor. So in this constructor, we're constructing messages, right? And messages are going to have a first word, second word, last word. Those are the attributes of the object message, right? And since this is a constructor, we have to sort of construct what first word, second word, and last word is going to be. In this case, I named them the exact same thing, but you can do something different for these. Inside this, we have two functions, which we'll talk about in a second. We created a message called goodbye, and it takes the attributes first word, second word, last word. It assigns it to this constructor to first word equal to thanks, second word equals to for, last word equals to poop, right? So our last function here is called sentence, and this just does a window.alert of this, which would be goodbye dot first word thanks plus a space plus second word for plus last word poop. So if we run it as it is, thanks for poop, guys. But since we have this second function right here, this function change word just changes the last word, right, to whatever we want. So let's go ahead and let's implement that to change word to watching, right? So as always, guys, thanks for poop. Sorry, forgot to save. As always, guys, thanks for watching. As always, you know, ask me anything in the comments. Whatever you want to know, I am here to help you guys. So just let me know. All right, see you later, alligator.